A ton of different news outlets and content creators had a chance to play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet early. They got 2 hours of gameplay out of it, and a ton of information has come as a result of it. So we've kind of compiled all of those thoughts and pieces of information into one epic video for you guys. So let's dive in. All right, so all these people had basically the same footage, right? And we looked at about 6 or 7 different kind of news articles and a couple different content creator videos. I'll put all of the sources in the description below if you guys want to kind of get your own take. But I'm just gonna compile kind of some of the overall thoughts that I saw from those different places. So the first thing is, this is the open world that they had a chance to explore. They had like this area that they could explore, and they had 3 different paths that they can go down. They could go down the kind of Team Star path where they take on the Team Star base. They can go down the Gym Leader path and take on Brassius, or they can do the Stony Cliff Titan Cloth and kind of see how that's gonna go. So some general things, I'm gonna kind of highlight some of the stuff. People were very excited about the open world approach. They really felt like it kind of aligned with Breath of the Wild for the first time. One of the things that was noted was there was really only one loading zone, which was like kind of the main big city. Generally speaking, everything else loaded pretty good, which is good. I'll talk a little bit about the graphics a little bit later, but there was only the one main loading zone. Certain events like the Team Starbase also went into loading, but the map feels super large and it was really fun for them to explore. Some other cool features, the PC is in your bag again. There's a little bit of uncertainty as to whether or not you can turn on or off your experience share. Serebii.net actually confirmed overworld shinies in encountering a shiny. I believe it was a shiny Skiddo in the wild, which is pretty cool. I really thought the UI and all the interfaces looked super duper good. And one of the things that was probably the best was Koraidon and Miraidon movement was incredible. Some of these clips look amazing, and it seems as though you actually get access to all of the different functionalities of these ride Pokemon at the beginning of the game. Now, it's uncertain as to whether that was only included because it's a demo, but all of these people had the chance to basically run, jump, climb, everything with Koraidon and Miraidon. It was apparently very seamless as they went through the game, which was awesome. I mean, like I said, this footage looks super duper cool of the Pokemon like jumping up and down and kind of moved around the map. It looks very neat in my opinion. In terms of customization, there's some pretty extensive customization. There's 4 uniforms from the schools to choose from, which is a little bit basic. They're based on the season, so depending on which season you pick, you obviously have more or less clothing in terms of that. But there's an extensive set of customization for your character in terms of hairstyles, eyebrows, eye shape, eye color, like the whole 9. It seems like they really decked out the customization options for your character, minus the clothing option, which is restricted to mostly just uniforms. That may be something we see updated in DLC in the future, but really cool stuff. And apparently you can do a lot of this customization from the beginning. Like when you choose your character, it's not about just choosing a skin color and like a default kind of template of your character. You can actually customize all of this from the beginning of the game, which is cool, as opposed to having it locked in a salon like 2 hours in, right? Obviously, you have the free roam to either do one of the 3 paths, whether it's the Titan, Team Star, or Gym Order. That's really up to you. A lot of the people kind of reported on the dynamic battle camera and how seamless the battles were. Outside of music change, you kind of just go right into battle when you're riding on the legendary or just encounter a Pokemon, which are sprawled throughout the region. A lot of these different websites kind of touted the fact that there was a robust amount of Pokemon out in the wild. So it felt really full until you get to the cities, in which case you no longer have those wild Pokemon. It's more like trainer Pokemon and stuff. We knew this from the trailers, but follow Pokemon and your trainer react to weather. So apparently Fergaraf run happily in the rain. There's a lot of really cool movement stuff. You can crouch, run, sneak. If you press the crouch button while running, you slide. There's no dodge roll like in Legends Arceus though. You have the freedom to change your nicknames whenever, and one of the biggest things is like the whole, when you walk in front of a trainer, they see you and then they battle you. That's not a thing in this game. They actually took that out. Instead, trainers will toss and play a Pokeball in their hand, indicating that they can be battled. You walked up to them and you talk to them to initiate the battle. So no longer do you run into a trainer without actually wanting to run into the trainer, which I don't like that change personally, but I guess in open world, like you probably could just go around them anyway, so why make it a big deal? One thing that's worth noting is there was some instances of people saying that like wild Pokemon will spectate a battle. It doesn't seem as though they jump into the battle like in Legends Arceus, but there are instances where like players were battling against wild Pokemon and then you can still see other wild Pokemon roaming in the background. Apparently there's multiple dragon Pokemon early on in the game, and we've seen from leaks that there's a pretty wide, extensive group of Pokemon early in the game. So all the people who played this had a set team, right? They had like BELLIBOLT and Armarouge. So they had like a specific team that they had to play with. So there was some limitations in terms of what we were gonna get out of that. By the way, real quick, if you guys haven't seen, we dropped some brand new merch for Team Shiny. You can pick up our Halloween drop right now, available using code SPOOKY to get 15% off. Don't miss out, these shirts are fire, and we got plenty of other awesome shirts at teamshiny.com. So swag out your closet for Halloween or beyond. Check out your favorite shinies at teamshiny.com. Moving on to some of the other stuff, the gym battle stuff. They took on Brassius, the grass type trainer. They found it to be very easy. One of the things that made it easy is they had the Armor Rouge, so they could just like blow through Brassius. I don't know if that's necessarily a fair indicator of the difficulty level of the game. One of the things that was noted is the Sunflora in the gym. There was no trainers in the gym that you had to battle, but rather you did this little quest. Only 1 or 2 of the Sunflora battled the trainer, so again, nothing too crazy there. In terms of the Titans, you end up facing Cloth, you beat it, it kind of runs away, you have to find it again, you beat it the second time, it runs away, and then they tell you do not follow it. So maybe there's more going on, but they said there seems to be more with the quest line, but that makes it hard to evaluate how engaging the Path of Legends will be in practice, so we're not exactly sure how that's going to play out. And then the other option was the Team Star base. You enter from the front of the base, you can't go on the other sides, you have to go in through the front. You do this kind of like let's go feature where you send out your Pokemon and they do this auto battle, which is a really big deal in this game apparently, because that's how you're gonna farm items and different candies and whatever else that you're gonna need to play through the game. The auto battle is really cool, but who knows what happens if you auto battle a shiny? We don't actually know. But this is something really cool. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be in the article, but one of the websites actually reported on this, and I didn't see it on any other reporting. So I wonder if they weren't supposed to say this, but I'm going to tell you guys. They said the ensuing battle with the leader, Mela, surprised me for a number of reasons. Torkoal had Drought. It's set up for a fire team. My Wiglet's water moves weren't able to do much. After Torkoal, my next opponent was the Starmobile itself. So again, further confirmation that the Starmobile is indeed a Pokemon. It threatened to sweep my team with speed boost ability and powerful attacks. Luckily, Armor Rouge survived easily with Flash Fire, but it would have been much tougher without it. So that tells me Starmobile may have some fire type moves. We believe it to be Poison Steel, but it may have some fire type moves to fit with the fire team Star Mela. But again, further confirmation, and we know that its ability is going to be speed boost. A lot of positive responses around Terra Raids. Terra Raids now have a timer, which is very, very cool. So you're gonna be able to kind of go a little faster. Everyone chooses their moves at the same time. It's just like a much better situation, apparently, the Terra Raids are. And some interesting notes is when you Terrasilize, you lose your original type, but you keep the stabs you had, and you gain the buff from the Terra type you need. So if that's correct, and we're understanding that correctly, if you have, let's say, a Ferrothorn that is Steel and Grass, and you Terrasilize into Fire type, that means that your Steel and Grass moves still have stab apparently, but now you have Fire stab and then your defense is changed. So if that is the case of how Terrasilizing works, that could be absolutely mind-blowingly insane for many Pokemon. I think of Delmise getting 4 stabs because of its ability, which is kind of cool. We've got a new interface for healing, which is cool, and then there's a handful of different mechanics and stuff that were talked about. Sandwiches apparently have a really big place in this game. The picnic functionality, you get different buffs, increase spawns for certain types, and increase your friendship, get XP. It seems like we're gonna be making a lot of sandwiches, which I do IRL. And then you've got Overworld Evolution looking really awesome, which we've seen. They just evolved. We saw like a Noivern in a previous trailer do that. You can actually backstrike wild Pokemon, so if you throw your Pokemon, if you throw your Pokeball at a Pokemon and hit them from behind, they'll flinch the first turn, which makes them easier to battle and catch, obviously, which is kind of cool. And then you will see the Wild Terror Pokemon moving around the map. We saw that Jigglypuff in a previous trailer. Apparently they move, so like they're not just static or just standing there. And completing main story quests gives LP. You have to complete the story to get your different TMs and things like that. And then again, I talked about the auto battling, but some of the websites kind of indicated that you really need to craft TMs in the TM system. To get those materials, you really have to do auto battles. Auto battles makes it a little more fun than arduous, so you basically are going to want to auto battle through the whole game. Just kind of let your Pokemon do their thing, and then you kind of, you know, farm those materials so that way you can get the TMs, right? Like, you send them out, they farm some Snomes, you get the materials from Snome, you use that to craft Icy Wind, and then you move on, right? So you're going to have to do that, but it seems like that'll be like very naturally integrated into the game. In terms of like overall impressions, Polygon's impression was that it's very much so like Breath of the Wild in the context of like you have the ability to kind of do your thing, which is really cool. GameSpot and some other places said that, you know, they really liked it. They thought that there were some hiccups in the pre-release demo. There was some rough kind of graphical stuff going on, which I think is worth mentioning, and that's probably the biggest thing, right? Like, a few different places kind of reported on this, is that there's some massive graphical issues right now. But again, this is pre-release, right? This is a demo, so like, how harsh can you judge this? I don't know, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. If you guys remember, like, Wild Area, when you were connected to Wi-Fi, was brutal, dude. So like, I'm not sure what this is gonna be. I would temper your expectations, because even though they have time to fix some of these things, it's not as if Pokemon and Nintendo or Game Freak are like notoriously known for their incredibly positive success when it comes to, you know, having really smooth graphic kind of games and things like that. So just be mindful that there may be, like, you know, frame rate drops and things like that. That's something I think we're kind of accustomed to at this point. So that's more or less everything. I think I covered pretty much everything I could cover. Again, I'll have all the sources in the description if you guys want to kind of dive into that. But a lot of really cool stuff that came today from those who got a chance to play it early and give that early preview. And again, we are less than a month away, so things are about to get pretty wild for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Let me know what you're excited about most in the comment section below. And of course, don't forget to head over to TeamShiny.com and pick up some sweet spooky merch with code SPOOKY to get a nice little discount. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.